My name's Dave Anderson. I'm a straight incorporated survivor from January 1978 to February of 1981. I'm here today with a good friend of mine that I've known for an awful long time. This is Kimberly, and she's a survivor of kids of Bergen County. Um, Hi, Kim.
Ah.
Tell me, I've known you for a long time, but one of the things I don't know is how it came to be. How did you get there? How did a nice little girl like you end up in a place like?
That's cute. I was a rebellious teenager. I was an only child. I came from a family that was, I mean, they're not very emotional. It was just kind of very cut and dry family, do this, do that. Um, I was kind of a nerd as a kid, but the kids that were popular were the smokers and the denim jacket wearing and the cool kids. And that was way more appealing to me than playing in the band and being in choir and going to church and doing all that. So I think I kind of migrated towards them and that crowd. I like the bad image. Started smoking cigarettes, started smoking pot, dropped band. Like you're kind of stereotypical by the book. Your grades drop, you drop your friends, some of them, and yeah, started coming home late, smoking cigarettes, drinking, smoking pot. As a parent now, scary, but as a kid, it was
Okay.
teenager stuff, So parents got scared. They were in a tough love group and they did a lot of stuff. They tried, therapy for me and like teen groups and Alateen and Al-Anon and kids of divorced families and different therapies. And I seem to get over on all of them. If percent, I don't know how to I had one therapist convinced that my parents were too overprotective and I needed a later curfew. So I was pretty good at conniving and lying and getting what I wanted and then just blowing all the rules. And I ran away. I was hard to control. And my parents were in tough love, a group back in the day. In the 80s, that was like a support group for parents with troubled teenagers and all that. And there was a family there that had a child in the program and they said, hey, our daughter's here and she's doing really well. And, so again, being a parent now and having, a child with a boo-boo, you want to fix it, you want to fix that child and make sure they're okay. And so I get their desperation and wanting to fix me and help me. I think now I also kind of realize that there was a lot of us that were kind of a victim of the 80s and the late 70s, the whole, DARE program and say no to drugs. And if there was like a black sheep of the family, you kind of shipped them away to not give you any more problems and go fix yourself somewhere else. And so being a teenager, the parents did that for you. And so I guess they went to an open meeting one night and they liked what they saw. And I'd run away to Florida from New Jersey.
What was
I
your
didn't hear what
open
you said.
meeting?
I'm sorry.
What was your open meeting? Was it like Mondays and Fridays or whenever it was bill time to pay your
Mondays
dues?
and Friday nights. But my parents used to go, my stepdad was in AA. So my parents used to go to meetings together all the time. I was home alone all the time. I didn't know they were doing anything. And also the week before I got put in, I ran away. So I was like 16 and from New Jersey. There it is.
I'm here.
From New Jersey, I ran away to Florida and for a week. And so when I came back, mom, got on the phone with mom and she says, we'll pay for your ticket home. We'll do this, we'll do that, but you need to go to counseling. And I was like, okay, whatever. Because I had already been to a bunch of counselings and I was like, whatever, no big deal. I know what they want to hear. Cool. So I come home and the next morning they take me to a therapy session and I never left. So that was my intake.
What was going on during the intake? Say again?
It was weird.
Weird.
So you walk in and it's kind of vague-ish now, but pretty much parents go one way with somebody and the kid goes another way with not a counselor, with other kids. There was 2 other girls that walked me into what I thought was going to be like an office, and it turned out to be a room with 4 walls and a door and 3 chairs. And that's it. And they had like papers in their hand and they were asking me questions and just about my life, about school, about my friends, about my home life, pretending to get to know me. And I already picked this up, I was like, I know what you're doing. You're trying to get the truth out of me, trying to be my friend. But they did, because I was also pretty convinced that I could get over on them anyway. I'll just answer what they want me to say and they'll send me home in a couple hours, it'll be fine. And so I just kept answering pretty honestly. I didn't hear you.
I said, how old were you at the time?
16.
16. Okay. I was 14. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
You're good. I feel bad because I feel like there's kind of a lag. So I can see you about to say something and then I have to it's weird. So there's a little bit of a lag on the camera. So
how about if I do this?
Works.
Yep.
16. Yeah. So strangely enough,
did you get
when I was
Did you get a feel? There was yourself and 2 other people, right? Did you get a feel for them? They were teenagers, right?
Yes.
Did you get a feel for them? What was going on?
So strangely enough, when I was younger, I saw a movie, like an after school special on TV, and it was called Not My Kid. And I forget who was in it, but it doesn't matter. I want to say Stockard Channing was in it. But anyway, it was about a troubled teenage girl that got sent to this rehab place or this, home for kids place. I'll stop doing the air quotes. This rehab place. And it kind of outlined, it showed you what she went through in there about how, she talked about a lot of things and that she done wrong in her addiction and how, she's fighting because she still wants to leave and she still wants to go do drugs, and then she stays and she gets better and she goes home and it's happily ever after. And the girl that did my intake, the girl that did my intake had long blonde hair and looked a lot like this girl that was in this movie. And it was just so weird. They ended up having to move me from one room to another. I don't know why. And when they moved me, one of them kind of held me by the elbow, not like, here, come on this way, and patting you on the back. She kind of gripped my elbow as we walked from the one room to the next. And in that movie, that's how they held each other. And I was like, okay, that's weird. But then they actually gave me the rules. They gave me, after hours and hours of sitting there and talking about myself and talking about my, teenagehood and my drug use and my drinking and my lying and my failing school and my everything else, my horrible teenagehood. They hand you rules and they're like, well, this is what's going to happen. And you're going to be here for, you can be here for 3 days or 7 days or 14 days or whatever. And I was like, whatever. Okay. Thinking I'm going to be able to go home, get my suitcase, get my hair dryer, get some makeup and my best pot leaf necklace and come back and go through rehab, no big deal. I had a couple friends already went away to rehab, came back. They were fine. Some of them were still getting high, but I was like, I got this. And didn't leave that day.
Yeah, how did that work out?
Right. Yeah, didn't leave for 2.5 years. So.
Were there 5 phases, 5 different stages of the thing?
Yes. There were 5 phases of the program. The first phase has the least, not responsibilities, but that's what we called it, the least freedom. You sit on a chair in a warehouse with all the other kids. There could be, at one point, there was over 330 kids in my group. At other times, there was 100. And boys on one side, girls on the other. You don't sit together. You don't talk to each other. You sit up straight, your hands on your knees in a warehouse facing forward for, 8 hours a day. You get these very minimal meals. Lunch was, how did they do it? Sometimes it was like a sandwich, like a peanut butter sandwich or a bologna sandwich or a cheese sandwich. And I mean, 2 slices. You maybe can take up a ketchup packet and a mustard packet. Then you get a cup of water and like a banana or a piece of apple or, an apple or a little salad. Salad meaning lettuce, which is green air in my opinion. But,
yeah.
And then you just talk. You sit in this group and you just, you talk about everything you've done in your past that was horrible, everything you did in your addiction, everything you did in your compulsion. Oh, I can't believe I'm saying that word. I haven't said that word in a while. Yeah. I walked down.
Were you honest with them? I mean, with what you had done, or did you minimalize it? Did you?
I actually want to say I overdid it. Like, I'm cool. I don't know. Like, when they say, what drugs did you do? And they kind of listed off some of the drugs they did. I was like, yeah, I've done that. And, I drank NyQuil and I ate a bunch of Tylenol one night. I think I was just overly honest to the point, like, they'll let me out if I get it all out on the table now. Like, that's what they want. So here you go. But it was also kind of I'm still cooler than these nerds. So I'm going to have to elaborate on my past to sound cooler than these girls, or maybe more intimidating. I don't know. I don't know what my thought process was on that. But pretty.
It's a difficult environment to walk into. I mean, I had maybe smoked pot 4 times, less than an ounce, definitely. Less than a gallon total of alcohol of any kind altogether. And it was just surreal that I thought I was going to a drug education place. That's what I was told, straight incorporated. Oh, right. Shit. Right. And, but hey, maybe it's just going to be like one of those things where they have a shadow box and, have some heroin up there, have some cocaine and some weed and
right. This is cocaine. Don't do it. This is marijuana. Don't do it.
That's what I thought I was walking into.
Yeah.
And, did they walk you out into the group and all that? What was that about?
Well, yeah, like I said, I kind of thought I had this I kind of thought I already had this. I kind of thought I already had this. Like, I know what their agenda is, so I'll just do what they want. And then they took me out of that intake room and they brought me into a large bathroom where I had to strip down and shower naked in front of one staff member, I think, a girl. And then she did a strip search. She didn't touch me, but there's squatting and that kind of thing, and they put me in some very awful, humbling clothes, and not my tight jeans, not my heavy metal t-shirt, not my denim jacket that I had on, not my leather boots, and they just make you kind of equal with the rest of the group. You're not anybody. They put you in these clothes and they walk you down. They do this very dramatic walk you down center aisle. Someone grabs you by the back of your pants. We call it grabbing you by the belt loop. And when they grab you by the back of the pants, they just walk you down the center aisle of this group of 200 and some odd kids. And this is Kimberly. They introduce you to the group. This is Kimberly. She's done this many drugs. We'll get her more honest later. And everybody laughs. And then they scream, "Hi, Kim, love you, Kim." And then they sit you down on a chair and they start freaking out and flailing and what we call motivating. And I was just stunned and not quite scared yet, because I still didn't think I was staying. But I was kind of like, oh, Jesus. Like, this is going to be weird. And I think I want to say I started to motivate or did like this or something. And then someone like put my hands down and a staff member called on, like they all motivated and they called on someone to tell me, "You're on first phase. You're this. You don't motivate right now. You don't do that right now. Stop being a kiss ass." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Okay, whatever. And then I did what I was told for the first, few days, because I really, really thought my parents were just going to come and get me. I really thought my mom was just going to cave and come and get me. I'm like, I'm not staying here. I'm not these people. I'm not these people. And this is just crazy. And these girls were, stripped down to these weird clothes, just very not fashionable clothes, and their hair back off their face, no makeup. They all had zits. The guys, they were all sitting over there, not handsome. I don't know how to say it. Like, everybody was very homely looking and not healthy looking. They were all very white and pale, and I was just like, okay. And every day went on and I would see more and more stuff and I would think, okay, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving. Where the fuck is my mother? When is this going to end? These people talking about being there for, oh, I've been on first base for 6 months. What the fuck are you talking about? What does that even mean? Like, and then just, day after day after day, doing what I was told, still thinking I could go up in the phases quicker because I'm smarter than these idiots. And then not going anywhere for months and months and months and months and months and months. And 18 months. I was the longest female on first phase in kids of Bergen County at that point ever. Like I said, a record. And I earned talk a couple times, and we'll discuss that, but I earned talk a couple times in TNR, never earned TNR, and sat on first base for 18 months. Finally moved up the phases a little bit, got to go back to school. There's so much that I'm skipping over. It's crazy. But I eventually climbed the ladder a little bit, and then, someone catches you feeling weird about something or lying about something, or, you didn't have the right emotion just then. You need to sit and think about that. And then I knew at one point I was going to be set, we call it setback. I knew I was going to be set back to first phase. And so it's just kind of inevitable. It happens to everybody. But yeah, I mean, the first phase of the program is the worst. It's the least freedom. It's the least, you can't read, you can't watch TV, you don't go anywhere, you don't do anything. You just go to someone else's house and they don't let you leave their sight. You sleep on their floor or a mattress, or I don't know. You raised the flag earlier. Sorry. What did you want to ask?
No, I was just wondering, the more you reveal, the more questions I have, only because of the similarities of the programs that we went through.
Right.
The whole sleeping on the floor. It's like people see people walking around with big garbage bags, and it's like, oh, shit, I lived that way for a good year and a half, 2 years,
Yeah.
As a kid, and these dawdry clothes. And were they like uniforms for you, or were they just really in bad taste?
Just bad taste. Just, like, what are you doing, dog? Just not fashionable. They called them humbling clothes. Like, that's what we had to wear. So we just couldn't express ourselves with clothing. It was somebody else's clothes. Like, there'd be no tie-dye in there because that's druggy. Because you relate that to, the hippies and the 60s. And yeah, can't wear like a regular old t-shirt like that.
Off of that image.
Yeah.
No,
it's
never could.
Right. A druggy. I hate laughing now, but I there's so much that I think about that. Again, it's been 30 years, and I'm like still mind blown. It still blows my.
Did you mentioned earlier about being set back? I mean, we called it being started over, or that was the worst thing. The other thing was being put on a refresher. A refresher could last 72 hours to indefinite.
Right.
Indefinite. You could be on a refresher.
Yeah. Those things, like the blanket statement for those two things was a setback. So you could be set back. You could be set back to first phase. You could be set back to second phase. You could be set back to third phase. You could be, set back to frozen on day one, which means you're not allowed to talk. You have to sit there in this group for however many days they feel like doing it. And you can't talk. You can't progress. You can't talk to your family. You can't do anything. You just sit there and you pay attention to the person talking. And you shut your mouth. Like, it's just mind blowing. Mind blowing that this shit happens still.
It does.
Yeah. Okay.
I felt a sense of dread all the time. All the time, when it's like, okay, in straight, well, all right, what's the goal? What am I supposed to accomplish here? Well, you're supposed to get straight. How do I do that?
Yeah.
We're not going to tell you that.
Right.
Well, how am I supposed to go about it? The best way you can.
Follow the rules.
And it was crazy.
Get honest. Get honest. That's what you're told. Get honest. What the fuck are you talking about? I am honest. Told you exactly what I just thought, or I told you exactly what just happened. Well, you're not progressing, so apparently you need to get honest. What does that mean? Right. Like, I was an upper phaser, and I had a person on first phase in my house, and staff members told me she needs to get honest. And I'm okay, what do I do? And they're like, get her honest. So I did what I had heard other people talk about doing. And I stood her up in the corner of my bedroom in her underwear and screamed in her face. Now, I'm 4'9". She was like 5'9". And I'm screaming and spitting in this girl's face and calling her a fucking loser and a fucking kiss ass and a fucking liar. And you're just going to be a piece of shit for the rest of your life because you're not getting honest. You're not telling us, you know, what's going on. You're not going to progress. And you're just going to be a fucking piece of shit for the rest of your life. I don't talk to people that way. Nobody talks to people that way. Like, and I was made to do this. I was made to humiliate someone and, you know, deprive them of food, deprive them of sleep, taunt them, you know, have other people get up in their face and scream at them and yell at them and tell them what a piece of shit they are. And like the premise is to, you know, break you down and then, you know, humble you and then build you back up. Dog, stop. Sorry. And then build you back up and make you a better person, but they forget that part. They forget that part a lot, always. They always forget that part. And the people that seem like the staff members and the graduates that seem like, I'm good, like I'm straight, and this life is wonderful and it's great. They do anything wrong, you know, like to smoking a cigarette, listening to a heavy metal song, and they can get set back. They can be 2, 3, 4 years out of the program and they can get set back on first phase because their program is fucked up and they're going to go back to drugs and die. And
what you're saying is it's December and I get out of whatever year. So in July, 3 years later, I can get thrown back in.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if I'm what if I'm 19?
It doesn't really matter. It's a little bit more difficult when you're a graduate and you're 19. But if you are, I hate to put it this way, if your heart is still in the program, you'll go. Yeah. Because they're telling you and you don't want to die. And, you know, you're still in the, if you're a graduate, you have obviously, I hate this, but it's true, drank the Kool-Aid, and you've obviously, you know, followed some rules for a while and done what you're told and maybe started to believe what they're telling you. And I did. That's how I moved up the phases. I was like, okay, well, this is my fate. So here we go. And I just did what I was told. And, you know, maybe I'll get that feeling that graduate has soon and we'll see what happens. But like, yeah, they can put you back at any time. There was a woman that was in her 20s. She had gone through nursing school. She was a graduate. I want to say she was almost in her 30s. She could have been almost in her 30s. Anyway, she had a job as a nurse at a hospital. She was married. And she apparently did something that they thought was like against her program and against her sobriety or what's the word? I forgot the other word, abstinence. And they talked about putting her back on a blue chair, like in the program on first phase. And she was like, and she was very, very, very part of the program, very heart and soul into this program and thought it saved her life. And now they're telling her as an adult, you know, that she has to go back in on it. And they're like, she's like, no, I'm a nurse. I have a life. This isn't a thing. You can't do that to somebody. But no, they have thrown people that, sorry, my voice is very dry today. They have attacked people on the street. They have, you know, pushed someone off a bicycle and thrown him in a van and taken him up. My dad was a part of this. My stepdad was a part of this. They sent people out after people that ran away, and they would catch them and they would bring them back and put them back in the program. So like, you think because you're over 18 that you should be able to sign out, because legally you can. In a perfect world, you can. You have that right. and they just tell you you don't have the proper procedure. You have to know proper procedure to sign out. And you say, okay, so what's proper procedure? Well, you have to ask your chain of command. You ask chain of command, and it goes up, and then you get land blasted and stood up in this group of 200 to 300 to kids screaming and hollering at you about what a piece of shit you are, that you're trying to leave because you're trying to go back to your druggy past, and your parents that love you and your friends that love you are going to lose you, and you're going to die, and you're a selfish asshole for trying to leave this program. And it's just all, it's all mind control. It's all mind control. They beat you down until you think you need to be there, or until you just lay there in bed one night and think, well, no one's coming to get me, and I'm not waking up from any dream, so maybe I should just do what they say. And that's what you do.
In doing what, yeah, thank you. In realizing that at that moment that it wasn't a dream, that it was really happening, and it's been happening to you for a while, to the point where, because you had described yourself as just pretty ornery girl, quite typical, and then all of a sudden you're telling me, about the compliance thing that's going on. I was wondering if there was ever any sense of self-betrayal. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like you're talking about screaming in this girl's face, and that's not your nature.
Oh yeah, no, I knew right then that wasn't right. I knew that day. I didn't feel right doing that. It was really awkward. Hang on. Okay, no, sorry, dog was chewing on something. I got it. Move.
Oh, you can have that. I mean, I call it the triple trifecta. It's like, okay, we're going to abuse you, and in the midst of your abuse, you got to abuse this person,
right?
And then you commence to abuse, and then I was only 14 and 15, 16, but my brain hadn't really split into separate hemispheres at that point,
right?
And I know it went against my nature, and I betrayed my own nature. And it's like, the abused has to abuse in order to progress. And for the life of me, Kim, I don't understand that. Can you explain it to me?
That's just what we were told to do. That's all. That's all it is. It's survival of the fittest. It's a very Lord of the Flies type situation. And it's crazy. Like, I read Lord of the Flies in like 8th grade or something, 9th grade. Mm-hmm. Didn't really understand, the full extent of it. I don't know that I really put it together in there, but I knew these people weren't licensed. I knew these were just what they called peer counselors. A couple of them were going to school for counseling or whatever, but there was not a legal counselor on the rap stool that day handling that group rap session that we were having. It was another kid that had been through something of what you've been through, and their own program had graduated, and now they're told to fix us. And it's just, I don't know. You're given a basic set of rules, and then it's, this person just tells you to do what you got to do to get these kids honest and get them straight, and get them, earning the right to go talk to their parents. And why isn't this one progressing? And then it's your fault that this kid is rebellious. This kid is not answering questions. This kid is not complying. It's your fault, and you need to punish them And then if you don't fix them, then you get punished. And it's, so you fucking do what you're told. Fucking do what you're told. There's so many of us, myself included, that have had to apologize to people in, you know, the real world, apologize to people that were in there for things that we did. I punched a girl in there pretty hard, and they restrained me on the floor for 6 hours for it. And I mean, I had to apologize to her in there. They made me make amends or whatever, but it didn't mean, I was pissed. Didn't mean anything back then, you know, but I had to like full on make amends to her or apologize to her, you know, outside of the program and as a regular human being. And that's humbling in itself.
As an adult.
You know? Yeah. Yes. As an adult.
Absolutely.
I try.
Absolutely. I've had to do the same thing. It's a scary thing to do, but it gnaws at my soul unless I don't. And then all of a sudden, I was forgiven. I was told just what you just said. You know, hey, Dave, we were kids doing what we were told. It's okay. I forgive you. I know what you did, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And while that relieved a sense of guilt, it doesn't relieve the memories of the crap that I did. You know?
It doesn't make it okay.
Yeah. Did your mom or your folks, did they know what was going on?
No. We can't talk about it. If we get caught talking about, you know, like, hey, this is fucked up. Again, we get punished. We get screamed at. We get spit at. We get restrained on the floor. We get punished in the way that we just, you know, you get set back on a phase, or you don't get to earn the right to go talk to your parents. So you kind of just get sucked back into a hole if you so much as blink at your parents the wrong way across a warehouse room when they are allowed to come visit you. If you look at them a funny way, like some kids got in trouble mouthing words, you know, like get me out of here or whatever, just like mouthing it, they would get caught and thrown on the floor or taken out of the group room into an intake room or the quiet room. You didn't want to go in there. You weren't allowed. You didn't do it. You didn't do it because then you got punished. So they didn't know.
How about when you went home? I mean, after 18 months, did you go back to live with your parents?
Yeah. You get sent home on the higher phase, and you have a couple days by yourself with your parents, and then you take home other lower phasers. And the couple days that you're home, I think it's just that you're still so scared and so shocked that you're home that you just still kind of do what you're told. They don't give you enough time to feel out your parents, you know, and see if you can tell them, hey, Ma, I don't like what's happening and they're hurting me, or, you know, this is happening. That they don't give you that much comfort. They don't give you that much time to relax and feel comfortable enough to talk about it. All of a sudden you get to take home people that are, you know, other phasers and lower phasers than you. And they're snitches at that point. You know what I mean? Like, they want to go up their phases. And if they notice that someone else is acting wrong or improper, they will tell someone on that person. And then they're good for you. Good for you. You know, you just saved someone's life. And then that person gets in trouble. And so you don't know who you can trust. You don't know who you can whisper something to. You don't know who's going to rat you out or who's going to grab your hand and run with you. So it's a crapshoot. And if you get caught, it's fucking bad. It's fucking bad. It's fucking bad. It's bad.
Yeah, because we called it clicking.
Yeah.
You were anybody. And they bastardize the word because it's normal human nature to click with another person.
Yeah.
Uh,
There's so many words that they've used that I can't say anymore because
the lingo.
they're a program word, and I'm like, I can't.
Have you ever seen anybody try to explain motivating?
Yes.
That's scary.
It's the only thing that you can say is that it's flapping your arms like a chicken to try to get called on, to try to get noticed. But then if you like thinking back, you and I both know it's a lot harder than that. It's a lot more effort than just flapping your arms like a chicken. There's a whole fucking lot more that goes into it. If you want to get called on and share your past and change from your past, you can't just raise your hand like you do in school, like, oh, I know the answer. Right. You have to flail until you've broken blood vessels to show that you want to change from your past and you want to be a better person. You don't want to be a piece of shit anymore.
No. Did you, while you were motivating, did you ever have the sense of, don't call on me, please, God, don't call on me?
Always.
And you were busting, like you said, blood vessels in the tips of your fingers from shaking so hard.
Bleeding because the dryness from the bad soap.
Yeah. That's just crazy. I was wondering, we sang. Did y'all sing?
Yes. Sorry, I had to move places. Yes, we sang.
No worries.
We sang what I would call like some church songs or like campfire songs, quick kind of nursery rhyme songs kind of thing. And I mean, I knew even back then that it was just to keep our minds occupied. It was so we wouldn't talk to other people. We were busy singing in between, group sessions and whatever. I knew back then what it was for. I didn't really care because I wasn't motivating to stand up to talk about anything. So I'll sing my heart out. I don't care. Every once in a while, somebody would, you have to motivate to request a song to sing. And every once in a while, somebody would yell out like a heavy metal song or something, and it was awesome. Those are little moments of relief where it was just funny.
We had an incident. We had a guy that, like right towards the end of the group, right before lunchtime, somebody's talking some deep shit, right? They're lying about something. And then all the guys, medication. And three, the group would get up and walk out.
Yeah.
The same individual one time stood up and stated, did not sing a cappella. He stated Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, word for word for word.
Oh my God. That's brilliant.
It was one of those, what the fuck? What do you do?
Right?
And the staff were, besides themselves because they couldn't stop them.
Yeah.
It was just a surreal moment.
I think we had a couple of guys that were really funny when they were rebellious, and they would, sing Metallica songs in group. Just start singing when somebody was up talking about, like, crying about a past incident and a humiliating situation, and they would just start singing Metallica songs or whatever. But again, you talk about stuff like that now, it's funny. He got restrained on the floor for like 4 hours because of it. 4-point, 5-point restraint, head, legs, arms, and held down on the floor. I mentioned that before. When I got restrained for punching that girl, I was restrained on the floor for almost or over 6 hours. And it's, again, kind of spread eagle on the floor on your back on a cold tile, and a person on each limb and at your head And I was just laying there, and another staff member came out, and she looked at me and she's like, "Are you done?" And I said, "No." And then she said, "She better be in pain, girls," which meant push harder, push harder. They dug their knuckles right into my legs, right into my arms, and covered my mouth to where I was, couldn't breathe and snotting all over my face and everything. And that was a restraint. So I counted
Where
being
was
a thing
that
that we
taught?
used to. Probably POW camps.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just amazing. I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, "Where'd you learn how to do that?" It seems like a dumb question, but it's like today, they have people that go around and do nothing but teach how to properly restrain people. But in 1978, when I went in, and when you went in, oh, nobody going around teaching people how to restrain. You took them to the concrete.
No,
Yeah.
no. And in fact, I saw it explained one time by Miller Newton, and he said, yeah, he did a deposition. That's another whole long story. And he explained restraining. We gently take the child, the adolescent, and place them on the floor and hold them there until they are no longer a threat to themselves or others. And I just wanted to reach through the screen and scream and call him a liar, because when you got restrained, we're all on individual chairs, individual plastic or fiberglass chairs, whichever, program you were in. And you just got thrown on the ground. And I mean, like, chairs would be flying, and a lot of kids like to be on the ground, or they like to be restraining somebody on the ground, because then they don't have to be up relating. They don't have to be up talking. They don't have to be up doing anything that they're going to get yelled at for. So they would much rather sit on the floor and hold your leg down for 6 hours. It's fine. But so kids would jump from different rows of chairs to restrain you. And, and it was just, you would break bones. There's blood everywhere. Sometimes, there were concussions there, where all kinds of stuff, all kinds of broken skin and everything, injuries from restraining somebody to keep them safe from themselves or others. And there was never any, this person needs to go to the hospital, this person needs to go here. There was a nurse, kind of like a school nurse, but it was, of course, a phaser's mom, who would, give you a Band-Aid and send you back out to group. I've seen a kid slice his wrist. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think you were about to go right. What I wanted to ask you next is, because the guy that sang Metallica songs, we called them jerks, we called them all sorts of things. But what I was wondering, because what I saw was a lot of people hurt themselves when they were rebelling, and I never did that. But I saw an awful lot of it. And I like I said, when I went in at 14, I didn't really understand cutting. I had never seen it before. And then I started seeing it all over the place. And it was until I was much older that I began to understand what was going on. Did you see any of that?
Yeah, this is a touchy one. While I was in group, myself, I'll speak for myself first. We did a lot of things to try to get out of being in group, whether it's go to the bathroom, whether it's, be sick, fake a sickness, get in a fight, restrained on the floor. Girls, for some reason, a little background, for some reason, girls don't get a menstrual cycle while we're in there. Some people say they used to put stuff in the food. I don't know that. I think it's just stress. I think it's just the physical and emotional stress that we're under. We just don't. I would dare to say 90% of girls don't get a period while we're in there. But anyway.
For an extended period of time.
Yes. 2.5 years, did not get one.
So the nurse in the house, the other women that would come in, the mothers, the sisters, nobody noticed there were no requests for feminine hygiene products, huh?
No, they did. And it was just, oh, that's normal. That's stress. It's normal. Or
That's
again,
not
they would go back to, you need to get honest.
Being honest will bring back your menses. Sure.
Yeah. So I actually faked, this is kind of embarrassing, but I faked a feminine hygiene problem to go to the doctor to get looked at. And I mean, you can ask your wife. None of us like to go to the girl doctor. None of us do. It's awful.
Mm-hmm.
And I would rather do that. I lied so that I could go to a doctor and have an exam and not be in group for one fucking day. Nobody signs up for that. Ask any female. None of us sign up for that. And I begged for it. I said I had an infection and I needed to go to the doctor.
That just rings of desperation, you know?
Yeah.
It's just...
I was told that a staff member would be there the whole time, you know, and I wouldn't be able to say anything. But I also was just kind of like, maybe there'll be one moment where I can say something to this doctor, or I can eyeball somebody and, you know, give them the SOS. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. A taste of the outside. I wanted to see sunlight for a minute. I just didn't want to be in group. And, you know, I'd rather go to a gynecologist to deal with that rather than sit in a group of kids that should be my friends and peers. And I watched people, like you said, cutting yourself. There was a girl 2 chairs down from me that took a piece of wire out of her braces and started carving her arm. There was a girl, this is a touchy one. There was a girl, again, 2 or 3 chairs down, that was what they called misbehaving or being rebellious. And she was really tall, but she could sit in the chair and, you know, and bend her whole body over. So she could put her head like in her lap, very limber, and just like bend in half. So she could put her head on her knees. And so she would sit like that for a while. And for the most part, nobody was allowed to do that. Like you weren't allowed to do that because we needed to see your hands and we needed to see so you weren't injuring yourself. But this girl was such a lunatic that they were just like, all right, let her be. And I'm looking and all of a sudden I saw drops of blood on the floor and I got the attention of a higher phaser. And we, you know, pointed to the blood on the floor and they yoked her head back and she had chewed a hole in her wrist. She had, you know, when you give a hickey, you bring the blood to the surface, you break blood vessels. She did that and just sucked on her wrist until the skin was so over moisturized and oversaturated that it expanded and she could chew it off. And again, no medical attention, no help.
Yeah, that's a psychotic break, I'm afraid.
That's what I would say, except for the fact that she was probably the smartest one for trying to get out. You know, and that's what I'm like.
Oh
That's
my
the
God,
sick.
yeah, what an extreme, man.
Yeah. Yeah. But in the same breath, I didn't think of it. I wish I would have thought of that. Maybe I could have gotten out of there. Somebody else broke a light bulb and cut their wrists and tried to get out. Another kid, another girl. Oh, Jesus. Oh, stuff's coming back. A girl. We were not allowed to practice our hygiene products without someone else around us. Hygiene practices. Shaving was not, shaving was very monitored because of razors. And, someone will kill themselves or someone else. And a girl got a hold of a razor and she had to hide it. She didn't know what she wanted to do with it right then. So she had to hide it and she had nowhere to hide it except a place that you could only find on a strip search. And she had what she did was she took the razor itself, the head of the razor, broke the plastic sides off of it. So it was just a little teeny strip of blade, like they do in prison and make shanks out of or whatever they're called. And she put it inside of her. She put it inside of her. And she had it inside of her, she said, for days because she wasn't sure what she wanted to do with it. I know a guy, he's a man now. God bless. I don't know. I got to find that one. I don't know where he is. I haven't talked to him. Anyway, a guy kept urinating on himself in group. He had a bladder situation or a urethra, whatever, urethra situation. Lots of doctors, lots of tests, lots of whatever. Finally went and had surgery to fix whatever was going on, and it was fixed. And he sat in group, and he progressed, and then he got set back again, and he progressed, and he set back again, and then he finally stood up and said it was all a lie. He made it up to leave group. Had a full-on surgery. Another girl faked her asthma attacks for 3 years. And like full on would pass out. Like when she was having, like she could hyperventilate and just and pass the fuck out. And finally stood up one day and said it was all fake. She did it to herself. Another girl could throw her shoulder out of the socket and freak people out. Like if she was rebellious and she was being restrained on the floor, she could lay on the floor and just pop her shoulder out of the socket and freak that person out and just fuck with people. Like it some of the daredevil stuff we do is sometimes just for shits and giggles. It's not even to get out because we know we can't get out. It's just to fuck with people. And like, again, it's not normal.
It's like a bunch of crazed primates in the zoo flinging shit.
Yes. Yes.
We flung shit because that's what we did.
Right.
Why? I don't know. We flung shit.
Right.
Just seemed to be what you had to do.
Yeah. Yeah. We did have a guy, he was a problem all the time. He was always in trouble. And one day he went missing. And we found out days later that he was up in the rafters. He was in the rafters for days. He would come down and get sandwiches out of the kitchen and then go back up. I still to this day don't know why he didn't leave. I don't know. Maybe he was from a different state. I don't know. But people jump out of windows with their underwear on.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't sleep with clothes. We sleep with underwear. And the girls maybe a t-shirt.
I was going to ask you, y'all lock the doors?
Yeah. And
did you lock the windows?
Yes, they are
and
bolted
alarm
shut.
them?
Yes.
And that's what I was talking about earlier. You know, did your folks notice what was going on? Because it's like, well, now you got to install a fucking alarm system. You got to fucking put a deadbolt on there. Who had the key, you or your parents?
Parents. I'm sorry. The old comer, the higher phaser, has the key to the closet. You have to lock the closet. So like, we did these things called MIs or moral inventories, and it was kind of a daily issue that you work through on paper and you show that you're complying, basically. It's supposed to help you understand the steps. And it was supposedly based on AA, loosely, very, very loosely built, based on AA. But it was, AA is such a well-regarded program that, if you say this is based on the 12 steps of AA, oh, good. It's good stuff. It's going to fix her. But yeah, so we did that. So all that stuff had to go in the closet at the end of the night. Your jeans, your little backpack that you carried, your notebook with, you didn't carry it. Your old timer carried it. All went in the closet. You lock the closet. You give the mom the key. She shuts the door. She sets the alarm. The old comer puts their mattress in front of the door so you can't get out. The windows are bolted. It's 4 walls. 4 walls. There's no out unless it's a window.
Let me ask you this. Do you have like a rough guess of how many people, mostly girls, all girls, I imagine, how many girls went through your house?
I didn't have just girls go through my house. That's a thing. I guess my parents thought I was coming home at one point, so they set up the whole house. And then I didn't come home. Shocker. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Oh.
No worries.
I'm doing something she's not supposed to chew. Go to bed. Go to bed. Go to bed. Go to bed. Thank you.
Find a place.
Oh. Sorry. Dog was chewing something. She's not chew. Where was I?
You were talking about putting the old comer would put the bed up against the door. And then I was wondering if your parents, you were explaining that more than just women through your house. Yeah.
Yeah. So at one point they thought I was coming home. I didn't come home. So my house was what they called newcomer proofed. Everything was, bolted and things were removed and the mattresses were on the floor and blah, 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 deadbolts on the front door and the back door. And I didn't come home. So there are times where, like I said, where graduates or not higher phasers, but graduates or, higher phasers sometimes that came from different states. That was a thing. He rounded up a bunch of people from different states, brought them there. So they didn't have a home to go to when they went, up on their phases. So they had to go to, we called them all host homes, but it was like a host family. So that person would go to someone else's house that was set up for newcomers. My house was that house. My mom was kind of a stay-at-home mom. She could, cook and clean and worry about it. There was probably, oh God, I would say 50 to 100 guys that lived in my at one over the time. And I would say probably 100 to 200 girls that have been through my house. And the parents are responsible for feeding them and cleaning them and housing them and laundering their clothes. And it can be, I'm sorry, 6 15-year-old boys at a house, they could eat 5 pizzas. Like it gets really expensive. I don't know how my parents did it. I have no idea. I don't know. I saw some of their bills.
Yeah. Okay. So have I. But with 250 kids going through your house, I estimated right at 90 went through mine.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have
like,
no way to tell, literally.
I'm awake. I'm awake. My dad kept records.
Oh,
There you go. 12 hours a day. Not to mention, I got to be there 9 to 9, so that's 12 hours. I got to get up at 5 o'clock or maybe 4:30 to take some newcomer to what we called a drop off, so they could sit there in a 40-minute purgatory until a ride would come by with 5 or 6 other people, and then they would take them
oh,
to
just lost you. There you go.
then they take them to the building, and it was just insane to think that the parents didn't realize, hey, they're awake for 12 hours for sure. Plus, they got another 2.5, 3 hours in the morning. Plus, you got another 3 to 4 hours at night. And nobody noticed it. In 250, and in my house, 90 people, nobody noticed the screaming, the hollering, the MIs, the sleep deprivation, the cutting. Nobody noticed any of this and raised an alarm in my house. How about yours?
Nope, it's all in the name of getting that kid sober or straight.
Under
It's
the
all in the
guise
name.
of
And that's the thing, like guys can be loud, guys can be very vocal and physical and uh loud. I don't even know how else to say that. And I don't know how. My mom's told me that, there was screaming, and the swearing and the and that just wasn't my family. I was as a teenager, I'm pretty sure I taught my mom the F word, but I don't know what it is with us in there. We swore a lot, and I still do, but we swore a lot. Everything was, this fucking that and fucking motherfucking and piece of shit and everything. Everything had a curse word before it or after it, and I don't know how my parents did.
pronoun.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know how they did it. I really like.
It boggles my mind because I remember one particular instance where I had a guy living in my house, and towards the end of the night, he just starts banging his head against the wall. Bam, bam. And we lived on what used to be, it still is St. Pete Beach, but they built a military barracks or a place for MacDill Air Force Base officers to stay. And
Okay.
these walls are like 14 inches thick of concrete. And this kid is banging his head against the wall, and I make a ruckus. I can hear my dad on the other side of the door, walked in, and I explained to him what he's doing.
Right.
His response, when it hurts bad enough, he'll stop.
Yeah.
This is tough love, This is, it's like, well, you got a kid banging his head against the wall. You got 2 other kids scared to death watching it, and he'll stop when he's.
And that's something that I've really, really, really battled with over these last 30 years of not being in there, being gone, is forgiving my parents. I had 2 sets of parents. My mom and my dad that divorced, they each remarried. My mom and my stepdad are the ones that placed me in this program in kids. My dad and my stepmom lived in Manhattan. He's an actor. They're very busy. He can't take off working at a Broadway show every Monday and Friday to come see his kid in a fucking rehab. So, he was like, I can't do this. And basically, if you don't do that, you don't love your child enough. And she's not going to be able to have anything to do with you. So I got told that my father decided to leave and that he's bad for my sobriety. And I will probably never talk to my dad again. And when I got out, he didn't come back. Like, I never saw him. I didn't see him for 2 years. And when I got out,
Right.
it was difficult to talk to him because I was like, what the fuck? Like, if you noticed it was wrong and you noticed it was fucked up and you didn't want to see this, how the fuck did you leave me there? Like, how do you do that to your child? And the most real my father has ever been with me. My parents adopted me when they were a lot older, and they're of a different generation. You know, the child doesn't need to know your emotions and all that kind of stuff. And so, like,
Very stoic. Yeah.
yes, I'm a child, no matter if I'm 50 or 12, I'm a child. And, you know, I need to be told the very minimal of life. So he was probably, like I said, the most real with me he had ever been. And he told me that he tried. He told me that, you know, he would call my mom and, you know, let me talk to Kimberly or whatever. And she's still in there. She's not home yet. He did hear that I was home on third phase. And that means when you're home on third phase, when you reach third phase, you go to school, kind of. And he told me that he heard that I was home on third phase and he showed up at the school and he was going to try to talk to me that day, but I had already been set back. So I was like,
Mm.
I could have gotten out that day. Didn't happen. He said to me that this one kills me. He came to the building, walked inside, walked straight to Dr. Newton's office while a secretary's yelling at him, you know, running behind him, yelling at him. Went straight to Dr. Newton's office, slammed his keys down on the desk, and said, I don't want to take her out of here. I just want to talk to her and tell her I love her. And of course, he wouldn't allow it, you know. Well, it's not very good for her sobriety right now. She's in a very vulnerable, you know, place. And if you do that, it could totally screw up her progress, you know, and set her back months and months. And he got a lawyer, you know, he had a lawyer, but he got his lawyer to write a letter saying that, you know, he had partial custody of me. He has every right legally to see me whenever. And they just didn't even respond, or they responded with another letter saying, sorry, you signed her in, but he didn't. So I had a hard time, you know, when I got out, actually believing that my father gave a shit, because I was told he didn't. So it was hard. And still to this day, I have a hard time. You know, my mom and my stepdad were a huge part of the program. They got just as brainwashed as the rest of them. And, you know, like I said, my stepdad was one of the groups that used to go find kids that were run away and bring them back, to the point of where he got punched.
Kind of thing.
I didn't hear it.
Like a vigilante kind.
Vigilante bounty hunter kind of thing. Yeah. Like, we call them host dogs now that I'm out. They were called host dads. We call them host dogs because they find you, they get you. They were just so deep. They were so involved that there was no talking them out of it. There was no. So even to this day, you know, when I say my stepdad is a history buff and he loves World War II and all that. And he's fascinated. I hate saying this. He's fascinated by Hitler. He's more fascinated by the control the man gained in such a short amount of time. And, you know, when the History Channel first came out, you know, years ago in the 80s, we called it the Hitler Channel because that's all it had on it was Hitler. And I learned a lot about Hitler and Nazis and camps and everything. And he was at an open meeting one night with one of his friends and one of his other host dads. And he said that this place reminds me of a concentration camp. But you left me there.
Yeah.
And that was about,
Yeah.
they said it was about 6 months into my program. So you left me there. Like, how is that okay? How do you do that to your kid? I have kids. I have a son who's been difficult, you know, and it's so frustrating, you know, and sometimes you just want to throw your hands up like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I don't know what the fuck to do, you know, and he gets caught doing something illegal. He goes to juvie and you just want to shake him. But I would never, ever leave him somewhere, ever. I would never do that. He got
I
sent to a
believe.
program in Tampa while he was involved in the juvenile program and all that. He got sent to some program in Tampa, and you know he mentioned it. My ex-husband mentioned it, and my radar went off because I was like, okay, what program? Well, it's based on this and it's based on that, and you know they have to talk about things that they've done, and they go to therapy a lot of the day, and basically he's incarcerated, but it really sounded like kids. And you know, hair on the back of my neck went up, everything, to the point of where I called a couple of times to talk to someone, talk to different people, and ask a bunch of questions. And I explained to these people what I went through. And so, for the most part, believe it or not, they were very receptive, and they answered a lot of questions. And he is incarcerated, so there was no like, I can't call him whenever I feel like it. But there was ways of getting in touch with him. We would go visit him, and it wasn't kids. It wasn't kids, and it wasn't
Yeah.
straight. You know, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't think it was very beneficial. I still don't think it was. Maybe it was. I don't know. He came out and got in trouble again. So I think it's just up to the kid, to be very honest. I mean, but it wasn't kids, so we'll put it there. Like, but I think even if I hadn't gone through kids, I don't know that I would do that with my child.
I've noticed, right. But one thing I've noticed with my experience with the legal system is number one, you're told exactly beyond a shadow of a doubt what you've done wrong.
Yes. Oh yeah.
You're told what you've done wrong, and you're told you're going to be punished. You're told exactly what your punishment is, and they tell you exactly how long the punishment will be. On such and such a date, you will be released and you will be a citizen once again.
Right.
I've never had that experience in straight.
No, like I said, on the intake in the beginning, on the papers, it says, your first phase is a minimum of 14 days.
How often did that happen?
Never.
No.
It's a minimum of 14 days. Second phase was, a minimum of 7 days. I think they were each a minimum of 7 days or 14 days or 21 days or something like that. And they were never. That was just a total bullshit written form to show parents so that when you don't earn it on that day, it's your fucking fault, the kid. Like, it's because your child's not working their program and they need to stay longer. A lot of my dad had good insurance, I think, is one of the reasons my first phase was very long. I wasn't a charity case, I wasn't on Medicare or Medicaid, whatever. Medicaid. My dad had good insurance, and it allotted a lot of insurances back in the day would, allow for 90 days or 6 months of treatment, and they would actually allow for a relapse and then another 90 days of treatment. I learned this outside of kids. And so I'm thinking that my dad had really, really, really decent insurance. And that's why I was on first base for so long because they didn't need me to go anywhere. I was a cash cow. And my parents were total soldiers. Like they did, oh my God, they did this thing called a phone-a-thon where they would call their friends and they would ask them for money to donate to the program. Kind of like Jerry's Kids.
Right.
Not. And God, that just flashed back to me. That's crazy. Every year, once a year they did, and they were huge in that. They had so many friends with AA and NA and church and everything else that I'm pretty sure my parents brought in a good bunch of money, and they were always willing to take, other host homes there. Like I said, the groups of boys or, things like that. Like they were very willing participants.
Well, you were talking about just a minute ago, you were talking about, or I think you were beginning to allude to working on some state of forgiveness. And two things. I've only been able to forgive myself for not being able to forgive my parents. And I understand I'm Buddhist, for God's sakes. I understand the concept. But the Buddha talks about cultivating compassion, which implies that it's not there in the first place. And I was never able to, cultivate that compassion towards my parents about abandonment,
Mm-hmm. I've always said that I forgive my mom for putting me there.
Right.
Because again, I am a mom and I understand the desperation of wanting your child to be healthy and safe, and I was a fucking idiot. And I needed something. I needed some kind of, some kind of whooping or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but it wasn't that. But again, for leaving me there that long, for your convenience, is what apparently I can't forgive. So
yeah, I understand, and I mean, my hat's off to people, that tell me that they can forgive.
Yeah.
Show me. I'd like to see it on paper to where you can give me instructions on how to do that, because I don't. It's like people saying, "Oh, I'm over it." Well, how'd you do that?
Yeah. Poof.
Why are you here if you're over it?
I'm also reminded of it, though, a lot at my parents' house. And I think that's also why there's not the complete forgiveness, because to this day, I am not allowed in my parents' house alone because I stole from them when I was 16. And I'm 48. I am not allowed. I don't talk about kids. I was very big in trying to make the planet aware of this fucking hellhole that is kids and Straight and Provo Canyon and God, what were the other ones? Treasure Cove or something. There was a bunch of them, just a bunch of them that I knew about. And I kept trying to tell people about it and make people aware of it. And I would tell my parents, Mom, I'm doing this. Like, we got a conference together. Like, it's real. It's not just me bitching about my childhood. Like, it's real, Mom. We're doing this. We're going to make a difference. Kimberly, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to talk about it. Mom, I'm trying to tell you something. I'm doing good. And I'm trying to grow from the anger, and the resentment. And, I really just like, we need to talk about it. No, we don't. We did what we had to do. And that's it. She won't even give me the opportunity to tell her that I forgive her. So I've never said it.
I'm sorry.
I've said
All
it
right,
to
take a deep breath.
you guys, and I've said it to friends, and I've said it on film 1,000 times that I forgive my parents or I forgive my mom. But she has
Yeah.
never let me finish that sentence to her. So I don't know. We've never been the same. My family. We've never been close again. I don't have a close family member. I have close family members that aren't blood. But
Yeah,
I don't,
I got a bunch too.
yeah, but not,
You're
well, technically they're not blood anyway. I'm adopted. So, but yeah, I'm not close to my family. And it's 100% because of this, 100,000% because of this. Sorry.
Well, that's okay. I understand. Let me ask you. I've really enjoyed this whole thing because I didn't know this much about you. I really didn't, and I've known you for an awful long time.
Yeah.
That leads into my last question, at least, is why you agreed to talk to me this afternoon. Why do you want to do that?
Stop. It's gotta stop. It's gotta stop. It's gotta stop. Just this whole movement that just popped up, because of someone famous, which is awesome. Someone had to make it aware. Someone had to. We've tried. You and I have tried. I've tried. I called, oh my God, back in the day when I first got out, I wrote letters to Sally Jesse Raphael and Montel Williams and and all of it. Someone had to listen, and nobody would listen to me because I'm just a kid who's pissed off that her parents put her in a rehab, and when all these, friends of mine that got out of the program, they were like, yeah, fuck that place. We're going to fight. We're going to da 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 da. And I would say, all right, listen, I got someone who wants to listen. So let's go. And they're like, I don't want to deal with it.
Right.
So then I never had the power in numbers. I never had the way to, I've done, as far as I know, I've done all I can do as far as footwork, as far as, studies and research and everything that I could physically possibly do to try and shut down that the kids program, to try and stop Newton from, progressing in anything else, to try and help stop the straight programs. There was one in the center of Florida that we went and protested at, Kids Helping Kids or something. And if I hear of any of these programs, I am instantly on them and I'm trying to find out what they're about. If I hear someone talk about putting a child somewhere, my kid's kind of fucked up, I'm like, research it. Please research it. Please, because Absolutely. It can be more detrimental. Sometimes people need help. Abso-fucking-lutely. Sometimes people need help. Nobody needs that. And our camera, there it is. Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that. Nobody deserves that. That's not a way to help someone. It's a way to give someone PTSD. Before I even knew what PTSD was, I had that shit. I have nightmares still 30 years later, of people coming and taking my kids, saying that I'm there, that I'm bad for them. I'm a bad mom, and I didn't finish the program, so I'm a shitty person, and they need to take my kids away from me because I don't deserve them, or just being abandoned somewhere in a room. Sometimes it gets very dark and dramatic, and like not like a group room, but like a dark, closed room, and it's just me, and I can't get out. And still 30 years later, and how is this okay? How is this okay that these places are still going and they're not being regulated? Like, that's what I have been screaming, that word, since day one of all this. I used to believe that this place was started for good reason. I used to believe that. And I think some places are. I think they are started with good intentions. And I think either the power gets a hold of people or they just lose control, period, and it goes a little crazy. This place was definitely not started for a good reason. This place was started by a megalomaniac who saw an opportunity and took it. I mean, the money was cool. You know, they got to go on all these vacations they talked about. They had a boat. They had, you know, nice cars. They have a beautiful house on the water. It's not so beautiful anymore. And don't have the boat anymore. You know, she had a big rock on her finger and they went on all these, you know, cruises and blah, 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 blah. And then the money went away and he's still the way he is. He is still, you can't tell him he's wrong. You know, it's nuts to see him still thriving mentally.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. You want to take a break and then come back and talk about this megalomaniac?
We could do that.
I'll leave it up to you. Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and pause.